Aloha, and thanks for stopping by my channel. I welcome you to join us on our yearly summer trip, and this time we're on the East Coast. We will be traveling around the East Coast for a week on a fun-filled journey full of rich history, beautiful landscapes, lots of things to see and do, and of course, lots of unique food. So come join us. On our first day, we flew into the country's capital, Washington D.C., started off the day straight off the plane to eat breakfast at Bob and Edith's Diner, and it's a 24-hour diner in Arlington, Virginia, right across the river, and it serves awesome breakfasts and lunches, very chill vibe. Really enjoyed the service. Food came out really fast. I got their famous chicken fried steak, and man, that was delicious with that creamy gravy with the sausage, hash browns, served with 2 eggs, and my son got his chocolate chip pancakes with bacon. On the way to Arlington National Cemetery, we bump into the Pentagon. It is here at Arlington National Cemetery where approximately 400,000 people are buried. It was built after the Civil War and is one of 2 national cemeteries maintained by the United States Army. Many veterans from the Civil War, World Wars I and II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, and wars in the Middle East are buried here. There are also famous people buried here, such as President John F. Kennedy, his 2 brothers Robert and Edward Kennedy, his wife Jackie Onassis Kennedy, astronaut John Glenn, President Howard Taft, Supreme Court Justices Thurgood Marshall and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, General Colin Powell, and professional boxer Joe Louis are some of the people buried here. Arlington National Cemetery is also where the famous Tomb of the Unknown Soldier lays. The site stands atop a hill overlooking Washington, D.C. and is guarded 24/7 by a soldier of the U.S. Army 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment. There is a parking lot and visitor center near the entrance of the cemetery. Admission is free. This vast cemetery is a whopping 639 acres, so be sure to use the shuttles provided at a low fee to view the different sections of the cemetery. The rest of the day was filled with sightseeing, from seeing the Washington Monument to the Lincoln Memorial. If you're wondering about where to park, you can park on street parking all along Constitution Avenue. You just pay the machine and display the ticket in your dashboard. This is my second time being in Washington, D.C., and the most striking sights here are the Vietnam Memorial and the National Law Enforcement Memorial. You can see the long list of names of those killed in both the Vietnam War and the long list of names of the law enforcement officers killed every day in the line of action. People leave mementos, baseballs, and notes to their loved ones, and I find it very moving. When in Washington, D.C., you gotta see the White House, and unfortunately we couldn't see the U.S. Capitol from afar because of the smoke from the Canadian wildfires. We have lunch at Washington, D.C.'s own Ben's Chili Bowl, which opened in 1958. It is famous for their hot dogs and chili. Ben's Chili Bowl won the James Beard Award and is a black-owned business that donated food during the Washington riots and March on Washington, where Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his I Have a Dream speech. You can see all the hot dogs grilling right in the front of the window. The service was friendly and the food was delicious. Dinner was at the Quarter Deck in Arlington, Virginia for some awesome Maryland-style blue crabs. These crabs were amazing and had such great flavor with a little bit of spice. Came with fries and also got some Maryland crab soup. Big chunks of lump meat with some potatoes, green beans, and some tomatoes. And this was the damage. On day 2, we woke up and headed back to D.C. to visit Ford's Theater. In 1865, John Wilkes Booth assassinated President Abraham Lincoln in this theater. Across the street is Lincoln's Waffle House. Kinda touristy, but a lot of locals were in there eating, so we decided to have breakfast here. This quaint little shop is packed full of locals and tourists eating delicious breakfast. We had their famous waffles, some with chocolate chips, and a side of bacon. We then headed to one of the many Smithsonian museums in Washington, D.C. We decided to visit the Natural History Museum. There are many Smithsonian museums in Washington, D.C., from the Air and Space Museum to the American History Museum. All are free admission and take hours to go through. This particular museum had many dinosaur fossils that were real, including a real mummy and some science exhibits. This is a great place to take kids. And it's free. We then started our journey from D.C. to Baltimore. We stopped at the Lexington Market. I wanted to go there to actually try Fadley's seafood, but they were unfortunately closed. I wouldn't recommend coming here as it actually was a pretty sketchy place to go to. We definitely did not belong in the area. The market inside, though, is pretty nice, and it had a lot of desserts, different food courts, and a lot of options to eat. In Baltimore, you can visit the grave of American poet Edgar Allan Poe at Westminster Hall. He is famous for his many literary works, such as The Raven and The Cask of Amontillado. We then head north to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, about a little over an hour drive from Baltimore, to see the Gettysburg National Military Park. This is a national park and the admission is free. Once inside the visitor center, you will find a nice, comfortable, air-conditioned area with a concession stand and restrooms. Inside is sort of a mini museum that shows you different things, such as this tree with authentic ammunition and shrapnel from the Civil War. There are different displays of authentic insignia from both the Confederate and the Union side. Also authentic guns and weapons used in the Civil War. You can see different instruments such as the snare drum and different horns that were used during the Battle of the Civil War, as well as authentic uniforms from the Union and Confederate side. There's a little bit of walking if you'd like to explore Gettysburg, but most of it is drivable, and you can use an audio car tour, so you don't really need to walk to see the sights here, which is pretty good for people that have disabilities or walking issues. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania is the location of the Battle of Gettysburg during the Civil War, in which the Union won an important battle to prevent General Robert E. Lee from taking over the North. This battle was the Civil War's bloodiest battle and inspired President Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. It is here where you can actually see the actual site where President Lincoln read the address.
7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, we are engaged.
We then head east to the small town of Palmyra, Pennsylvania, to our Airbnb. This is 5 minutes from Hershey, Pennsylvania, where we'll spend the next 2 days at Hershey Park. For the rest of the day, we'll just relax in our Airbnb, and here are some snippets of what it looked like. It had a full kitchen, snacks provided, Keurig coffee cups, a refrigerator, washer and dryer, which is great to do laundry, and a nice backyard. To end the night, dinner is at the famous Primanti Brothers. Although not the original location in Pittsburgh, I've always wanted to try it, so I'll take it. They're famous for their sandwiches, especially their classic Reuben, filled with french fries. It was amazing, paired with their Primanti Brothers Red Ale. On day 3, we entered Hershey Park's Chocolate World, and it's a separate part of the park. You can buy tickets to do different activities. Today, we decided to create our own candy bar. It comes with your own personalized candy bar label with your name on it. You can choose what you want to put into your candy bar and watch it be made. I found it fascinating that the computer knew what bar was which, and it even said your name on each station and what it was putting into your candy bar. I chose chocolate chips, white chocolate chips, and some toffee. Each chocolate bar is covered in milk chocolate, and you get to watch it get chilled and put into your container. In Hershey's Chocolate World, there is no admission fee. It is a store that sells many Kit Kats and other Hershey products and Reese's peanut butter cups that you can't find anywhere else, including Jolly Ranchers. We picked up a lot of Kit Kats that you can't find and some Hershey bars as well. We even have a store full of Jolly Rancher type soaps, socks, clothing, jackets, plushies, and all kinds of Hershey stuff. If you want to go into the park, the fee I thought was pretty reasonable compared to other places such as Disneyland. For a 2-day pass, it was a little over $80, and that includes every ride, and you can go on it as many times as you want. The lines compared to Disney were not that long and moved very fast. There's lots of entertainment on the way and lots of thrill, roller coasters for those that like the thrill, and big drops. There's also little kid rides for those that are little, and other rides such as the Hershey Kisses Tower that has a 360 view of the park that all ages can enjoy. Hershey Park also has a connected water park with your admission, so don't forget to bring your towel and your swim trunks. There are lots of tubes and slides to go on and little water play places for little kids, and they also have a shallow little makeshift beach, and you can wear life jackets and there are lifeguards, so it's pretty safe. For dinner on the first day, we went to the Chocolatier, which is Hershey's own restaurant. They incorporate chocolate in mostly every dish. There are also specialty drinks such as chocolate martinis and Reese's martinis. I started off with a Troeg's cacao beer. For my main, I got short ribs with mashed potatoes and golden carrots over a porter chocolate sauce. The meat was fork tender and the chocolate sauce actually was very delicious. This is the interior of the restaurant, pretty casual. I'm not a big hard liquor drinker, but I just had to try the 3 sampler martinis, which included a Reese's martini, and it was so good. Dessert was at Milton's Ice Cream Parlor, and I got the orange cream. They also have the Wildcat's Revenge ice cream. This was lunch on the other day. They have a smokehouse with ribs. And on the last night, we went to Troeg's Independent Brewing, which is right down the road from our Airbnb, to meet my college friend Amber, who I haven't seen in more than 20 years. Great flights of beer, great food. I wasn't too hungry, so I got a Caesar salad, and you gotta try the Jovial Ale. It was freaking awesome. Great times, great friends, good food. On our 5th day, we said goodbye to our Airbnb and headed towards Philadelphia. We visit the Independence Hall, where both the United States Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution were debated and adopted by America's founding fathers. It is in this room where it was written and signed. Right across the street is also the Liberty Bell. It is free to see, but if you want to see Independence Hall, you must make reservations. Right next to that is a National Park Visitor Center where there's a gift shop, concession stands, and restrooms, and underneath is parking for a fee. This is the Benjamin Franklin burial place. He's from Boston, Massachusetts, but is buried in Philadelphia. To enter the cemetery, there is a $5 fee, but you can see his tomb from the street. A short walk down the block, you can see the Betsy Ross House. This is the birthplace of the American flag. In this little house, the flag that we know now as the American flag was born. Near the Betsy Ross House is a firehouse that was very friendly and let everybody in to view their ladders and fire engines. You could even go inside the engine, and it was a treat for the kids. When in Philadelphia, you have to get a cheesesteak. There's the famous Gino Steaks and Pat's Cheesesteaks, but we opted to do something less touristy and go to Woodrow's, where the locals go. This sandwich had shaved ribeye, homemade truffle whiz, cherry pepper mayo, and caramelized onions. Probably one of the best sandwiches I've ever had on a really soft roll. We then headed to the Philadelphia Museum of Art stairs, which is famous in the scene of Rocky, where Rocky runs up the stairs. We wanted to see the Edgar Allan Poe house in Philadelphia, but took the wrong turn and ended up on a bridge towards New Jersey. To turn around would take an hour and 27 minutes to get back to Philly without paying tolls. So we said screw it, and we went to Yonkers, New York, which is where our next hotel was. We went to Hapag, which is a Filipino restaurant in Yonkers, and we had dinner there. They offered amazing calamansi juice, which I wish I had refills for, but had to stop myself. We ordered some crispy Shanghai lumpia, which was really delicious with the dipping sauce, nice and crunchy and meaty. We ordered the sizzling sisig platter for dinner, and it came with garlic fried rice, and I would say it was very delicious and comparable to the things you could find in Hawaii. Next door was H Mart, and we went in just to look, and this H Mart was pretty huge, but pretty much the same as anything in Hawaii except for the lobsters, which were really cheap. There was tons of seafood options, fresh clams, mussels, even periwinkle snails. There was endless amounts of banchan and tons of different types of kimchi. There was just rows and rows and rows of it. And I would say it's pretty much the same as the H Mart we have, except for the service, which was as cold as your ex's heart. As with any other H Mart, there was a Korean food court inside with different options to eat at. You may be wondering why we stayed in Yonkers, New York, but it's near a train station in the city of Tuckahoe, and it's really easy to do because there is no parking in New York City, trust me. So we took the train all the way to Grand Central Station. The trains are easy to take, they're clean. It takes only about an hour to 45 minutes, and it's only $9 for a ticket with a child. From Grand Central Station, we jumped on the subway to Battery Park to take the ferry across the Hudson River to see the Statue of Liberty. Just a tip, Statue City Cruises are the only official ferry for the Statue of Liberty. If you are approached in the city for a tour of the Statue of Liberty or a cruise or a ferry, do not buy it from them. They're going to rip you off. Just go online, pay for it. With the Statue Cruises, and they work with the National Park Service and get you there. Once you get your ticket, whether you're on the New York or New Jersey side, the ferry comes every 20 minutes, so you can take your time looking at the statue. Once you climb the 162 stairs up the pedestal, you are rewarded with beautiful views. If you can't climb the stairs, they do offer an elevator with a ranger. It was amazing to see the patina from the copper drip down onto the pedestal from the years of tarnishing. After seeing the Statue of Liberty, we walked across the way to the Wall Street section where you can see the famous Charging Bull. On this day, there was a big Puerto Rican block party and parade, and it was cool to see the streets blocked off for food vendors and other people selling goods. After Wall Street, we headed towards the 9/11 Memorial. I've been to New York City twice and have never visited this site because when I did visit, the World Trade Center still stood, and the second time I visited, the memorial was not built yet. The memorial was a somber reminder of the events that happened on September 11, 2001. We then headed to the Empire State Building to do the observatory on the 86th floor. It was interesting to see the old-fashioned way of how they built this massive building by heating up rivets in an open flame and tossing it to the people that bolted them into the steel. When you get to the top of the observatory, you can see wonderful 360 views of Manhattan. To get to the top of the observatory, you do need to buy tickets, and you can buy them online. For lunch, we took the subway and braved Katz's Delicatessen, famous in New York City, and had a long line to get in, but the line moved pretty fast. And we dined in. You can either do a dine-in option with table service or go to the counter and find a table that's open. With your meal, you get fresh pickles and a little bit more fermented pickles. We opted to get the famous pastrami sandwich, which was massive and loaded with delicious pastrami. The pastrami was so tender it just melted in your mouth, and the rye bread was also soft and melted in your mouth as well. We finished it off with a traditional chocolate New York egg cream. We walked off that heavy lunch, trying to find Times Square, and it did not disappoint. Full of lights, the Naked Cowboy, and musicians. We also saw other sites such as Radio City Music Hall, the NBC building, Nintendo store, and Rockefeller Plaza. We headed back to Yonkers and went to Louis and Johnny's Ristorante, where I had the best pasta I've ever tasted in my life. On day 7, we leave the honking horns and hustle and bustle of New York and head towards New England. We drive to Mystic, Connecticut to visit the iconic Mystic Pizza. The restaurant inspired the 1988 movie starring Julia Roberts. Mystic Pizza is still in business today, so we stopped by this notable restaurant to grab a slice. Today's special was a spaghetti and meatball pizza, so I opted to get that, and we also got a slice of pepperoni. You can sit in at the bar area where they serve slices and give you fast service, or you can go on the other side of the restaurant and dine in. The pizza was amazing. If you're looking for parking for Mystic Pizza, just go on the side of Bank Street and there's tons of street parking available. After lunch, we head east to Newport, Rhode Island to see the historic Newport mansions. These mansions were built during the Gilded Age from 1870 to 1910. This was a period when new wealthy families emerged when industry in America came into full swing. These wealthy families built extravagant homes near the beautiful shoreline of Newport as they were rejected by wealthy families from old money from New York. There are about 10 mansions that you can tour both inside and out for a fee. If you're on a budget, you can still drive by and see these mansions from a distance. After visiting Newport, we head up north to Massachusetts. I stopped by the Plymouth Pawtucket Museum, formerly Plymouth Plantation, where it's sort of like a living museum showing you how the Pilgrims and the Indians in Massachusetts lived at that time. There are many cottages with actors acting as pilgrims, and I remember before there were actors that were actually of Native American ancestry, but today, for some reason, there were none to explain the Indian village side. All in all, if you've never been here, I think it's very educational and an interesting museum to go to. Just down the road is a replica of the Mayflower and Plymouth Rock. For dinner, we head towards our hotel in Quincy to have dinner at Alba. It was great tapas and pasta and had excellent sushi and service. On day 8, we start the day by seeing some historic sites around the city of Boston. I won't go into it too much as I already did a full-length video on the city. If you haven't seen it yet, check out the link above. But we pretty much went to the same places I've been to in that video to show my son. For the graves of Paul Revere, Sam Adams, and John Hancock. We ate at the Union Oyster House again. It's the oldest continuous operating restaurant in America. We had their delicious cornbread, their famous amazing clam chowder, chunky and tasty. And this time I tried their fried seafood platter. Comes with onion rings, calamari, fried oysters, fried clams, fried fish, and fried shrimp. The fish was tender and tasty, and I washed it down with some Sam Adams Colonial Ale. We killed some time looking at Quincy Market and Faneuil Hall, and also the Boston Tea Party Museum, before we headed off to Fenway Park to see our first Major League Baseball game with the Red Sox versus the Colorado Rockies. Unfortunately, the Rockies beat us by 1 point, but it was an amazing game, the crowd was amazing, and it was exciting. And of course, there was lots of beer, some Fenway Franks, and some pizza for dinner. If you're looking to come here for a baseball game, there's literally no parking here, so you should take the subway in. On our final day of our East Coast tour, on day 9, we head to Salem, Massachusetts, which is located on the North Shore of Massachusetts. The town of Salem is infamous for the Salem witch trials that occurred in 1692. This is where numerous people in the town accused each other of being witches, and hysteria consumed the town. Many innocent people were falsely convicted of being witches and publicly hung. Here in the town you can see the original graves of the people convicted of being witches, such as Giles Corey and Sarah Good. There are many museums and historical places of interest in this town. The House of the Seven Gables is also in Salem. Built in 1668, it's a colonial mansion made famous by author Nathaniel Hawthorne. Right across the street is America's oldest continuous running candy store, the Old Pepper Company. They make different chocolates, homemade fudges, and different kinds of candies. Their famous candy is the oldest candy in America, and it's called the Gibraltar. Also in Salem is the famous house filmed in the movie Hocus Pocus. We head further north to the town of Glouster to see the Glouster Fishermen's Memorial. This town is the setting of the movie The Perfect Storm, which was based on a true story of the ship Andrea Gale. The movie starred Mark Wahlberg and George Clooney. In Glouster, the fishing industry is number 1, and it's also the home of Gorton's, which makes frozen fish sticks and canned clams. The Crow's Nest Bar featured in the movie The Perfect Storm can still be seen here and is still in operation today. After exploring the North Shore, we head back into the north end of Boston, where we eat at an Italian restaurant and have an amazing chicken parm dish and a clam linguine dish. Everything was perfect and delicious, and it was a great way to end our trip with this great meal. I head back to Mike's Pastry, which I featured in my first Boston video, for my son to try his first cannoli and also to try a sfogliatella. He really enjoyed his cannoli. I unfortunately did not like my pastry. It was very stale and it had a fruit cake type consistency instead of cream in it. But all in all, it was a wonderful trip, and our trip comes to an end. It was a wonderful whirlwind trip full of history, thrill rides, and great food. And I hope you enjoy this East Coast tour, and thank you for watching.